Thank you, Tobias. Tobias Chanji there in the South Coast in Msambweni, burning the midnight oil quite literally. We know you're tired. Get something to eat and drink. Get some sugar in your system. We shall be coming back to you for more, if indeed we shall be getting more results coming into the Tallying Center. Let me bring in Javas Bigambo, political analyst, to just try and dissect some of these political happenings that we are seeing. But before I bring in Javas, a reminder that it's not only Msambweni constituency that has gone to the polls today. There were other mini polls in that was Msambweni constituency. There's a mini poll in Dabaso, another one in Vundanyi Mbale, that is in the county of Taita Taveta. Kisumu North also, by-election there for MCA position. Kahawa Wendani as well, Gaturi and Lakeview. IEBC announced, of course, the voting was closed. The tallying is happening. We are yet to get the official numbers from the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. We're also keeping an eye on those ones, as well as Msambweni. Javas Bigambo, thank you for joining me here on KTN Prime, this late-night edition. There's a lot of interest, political interest, in Msambweni, in the Msambweni by-election. It has been touted by some pundits as an acid test between the Kwale Governor Salim Mvurya and his Mombasa counterpart, Hassan Ali Joho. And we saw that today. We saw both sides, two sides of the political divide, altercations between sitting members of parliament. We saw Nyali MP, Mohamed Ali. We saw Khatib Mwashetani and even the Mombasa governor. There was a lot of tension, Johnson Muthama being arrested there, and there's a lot of presence by both sides of that political divide, even now as the tallying continues for this. Why is there so much interest in this mini poll?
Well, thank you, Ben. When you look at Msambweni, it's easy to conclude that we have got three pairs of candidates. One, of course, we've got the actual candidates. For example, there is Faisal and Boga. Then we have got Mvurya and Joho squaring out because of the political supremacy battles that have always been there between them, and now that they are finalists or finalizing their second terms in office, they want to have great influence, political influence in the region and determine how things pan out because they want to be the supremos of the region. Then we have got the ultimate candidates who are shadow candidates in this case, and these are the supposed 2022 presidential candidates. Here we are looking at former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, and we are looking at the other, who is Deputy President William Ruto. And all these political interests and weight also weighs in on the kind of strength and influence that the real candidates have on the ground, and also the support bases. And when you look at how charged things have been, especially in Msambweni today, it also speaks to the lack of sticking to the tenets or the canons of real democratic practice. For example, the metrics of transparency, accountability, and non-violence within the political system that waters the tree of real democracy.
Right.
And when you look at, for example, the involvement of former Machakos governor and former Kakamega County governor, senator, and even, for example, the other MPs, the way they've been trying to play an active role within the management and the watching of the manner in which the election process is being conducted and the voting today. It tells you that it's not just the candidates themselves who are very keen on the outcome of this, because it has got a huge implication or ramifications.
Right.
And all these other politicians, the sitting politicians, who have gone and goaded themselves into the Msambweni politics, it tells you that they want the outcome to come out in their favor, the favor of their candidate, because it also speaks to the kind of influence that they have, and it has got some bearing on how the battle formations are going to be towards 2022 general election. Would
you call it a mini referendum for the BBI referendum itself, or is that pushing it a bit?
I wouldn't say that it is really a mini referendum on the BBI. I would actually say that it has tested the BBI and the BBI spirit itself. For instance, when you look at the whole idea around the BBI and the desired or the proposed amendments and the spirit within it, that once we have this, what the president called the First Amendment, that we are going to have a really cohesive society, and the electoral process is going to be fair, without any violence, inclusive, etc. But how come we have seen a negation of that spirit in Msambweni today? Aspects of violence, aspects of bribery, aspects of the security forces being involved in such a manner that they are not really neutral arbiters. When you look at this, it negates that whole spirit that is supposed to be contained within the BBI agenda itself, or even looking back in retrospect, one of the 9-point agenda issues. Because if President Kenyatta and former Prime Minister Raila Odinga are saying that once we push through and get done and enact the BBI proposed amendments, that the national cohesion will be now a thing that is within our borders, that political violence, electoral process management will be transparent, etc., then we need to see it practically even before we get to have the BBI process, or rather the referendum, and even entrench all these changes within the Constitution. If we're to look at it through the lenses of a social situation, a couple before they get married, they won't say that they will be faithful when they get married. They have to be faithful and true to the word and the spirit of their relationship before they get to matrimony itself. So the spirit of the BBI should be mirrored in the conduct of our day-to-day political affairs, so that we can appreciate that it's not a question of just having this entrenchment of the amendments in our Constitution for the sake of it, but we say that as a nation, these values, this spirit is what is moving us even toward that direction.
All right. Let's bring in a lawyer and political strategist, Kipchumba Karori, joining us via the phone. Kipchumba, thank you for joining us. Did you expect this mini-poll, the by-election, to be such a closely contested race? What is your take on how things panned out today? We saw the altercations. We are seeing some tension between the two political camps.
Yes, thank you, Ben. Thank you for the opportunity. I will say that whereas we've been told time without number that we are moving to a cohesive nation, I think that is not the reality. The reality is that we are more divided than we think we are united. And that brings to the forth what my co-panelist is talking about, the issue that is BBI really doing enough to unite the nation? You saw today what the proponents of BBI were doing. We are preaching water and drinking a lot of wine in the process. But that is far from it. What has transpired today is that Kenyans with time are moving away from politics of just politics for the sake of it. And people want to listen more to what we can say. And again, we can say Msambweni, the voters today have been used as an arena. It was just a stage for the bigger fight. What was happening there is that there were 2 wars or 3 happening in that stage, Ben. The first war was a regional war between Joho and Mvurya to know who's the man who calls shots in coastal region. The second war was the war between Raila Odinga and William Ruto. And what the third war is that which Raila brought it forth, which I did not see it play well, but maybe Raila sitting from the position he's sitting, he might have seen that as a stage. The issue that it was a test for BBI.
Those wars you're talking about, Bwana Wakili, they were literally wars. People were fighting, and it is the politicians fighting. So when you and Javas, dissect this for us and tell me that we are not seeing the spirit of the BBI, it seems like it's the politicians who are, escalating this, and not Kenyans. Kenyans seem tired of this, but it is political leaders who are, perpetrating this, isn't it?
Yeah, then with some fun in it, I will say this. I'm glad at times, and I'm saying with some fun and well guarded when I'm saying it, that I'm at least happy when I see politicians fight their own war themselves, because it shows that Kenyans have had some levels of maturity. And then again, it brings for us to the discussion and to try to philosophize the idea that what did really BBI come to heal in this nation? If Joho and his brother Mwashetani cannot agree in an ideological contest, in a contest where it is pitting two individuals selling different ideas, it calls forth the idea that why will a politician preach about BBI in a Monday in a podium over the weekend and go fight in the next week, in the next event? So the other thing which we need to ask ourselves is, and time will answer this, did the voter or the person in some way get a real time to express their will? And I think the violence from Kibra and all the by-elections we have had with violence, they tend to inhibit the right to the political right of the people of the certain state. And therefore, what we need to do going forward, there are two institutions which are letting us down. The police have been accused as having taken active role in fostering some of these fights. The same goes to the IBC. We have seen a lot of misapplication of the code of ethics of election, and nobody is punished before the election or after the election. And at the end of the day, Ben, even as we talk about 2022, I can say and authoritatively say so that Msambweni, Kibra, and all these contested by-elections like what happened in Wendani today, they are giving us a sneak peek of what 2022 will be. Therefore, my question and suggestion to Kenyans will be this: let us continue shunning politicians who want to bring violence to us and move to people who want to discuss ideas. We might not agree with the idea, but give these people a chance to sell their idea. At the end of the day, the greatness of this nation is not in everybody shouting, but it is in all of us listening to each other.
All right. Stay with us, Kipchumba. Javas, what does this mean for the two sides? Now, the BBI side, the political realities on the ground. From what we can see from unofficial numbers and figures, the ODM seems to be not doing very well in not just Msambweni, but in several other by-elections earlier today. What would an ODM loss mean in Msambweni?
Well, I think I would respond to that by saying that this by-election of Msambweni, first, it's a question of ODM defending its seat that it initially held. And if it loses, then one would want to ask himself or herself, is there a miscalculation and misinterpretation of the mood and the spirit of the people by ODM and by Raila Odinga himself? And the other thing would be, is Raila Odinga losing his moyo if at all his staff is being challenged, not just by a candidate, say, from a challenging political party, but an independent candidate. And the other thing would be a question of the strategies that are working on the ground and the political messaging that necessitated such kind of loss. It would leave Raila with a bad feeling and a bad taste in the mouth to lose Msambweni, a seat that his party held. The other thing is that it would compel ODM and Raila Odinga himself, and including Joho, who is the deputy party leader of ODM, to go back quickly to the drawing board and see how they can defend what has been largely held as their home turf or their backyard. It would also send another sublime message that it's possible that the coastal region could be a toss-up region in 2022, that if another strategic, more shrewd political candidate arises, that they can wrestle this piece of meat from the mouth of Raila Odinga and run away with it. So if at all the ODM candidate will lose in Msambweni, it's going to cause serious sleepless nights to ODM and to Raila Odinga. But then again, we'd also want to ask ourselves, could there be some bad manners on the part of some leadership of ODM that now has also led to this kind of loss. There has been a bit of discussion about sentiments by key politicians supporting the ODM candidate, then key politicians supporting the challenger. And that also talks to the issue of historization and problematization of our politics and our ethics in elections. That actually, in the end, whether we get to have this BBI come through or not, whether we get to have stringent electoral laws, that those laws cannot cure bad manners from politicians and even citizens. Because when you look at the kind of violence that has taken place, you realize that, one, it was instigated, stirred up by politicians who are using what I may call the goons or young people who are going for each other's jugular just because of political passions and persuasions. So, which means that in the end, it is our uncultured nature that now stirs the spirit of violence. And this is one of the things that even keeps women folk away from active participation in electoral politics because they fear this kind of violence. They fear the issue of sentiments that speak to some sexual connotation that is degrading, especially to women. And these bad manners also, in a way, eats at the desired values at the spirit of our nation.
Kipchumba, if you're still with me, what does Msambweni mean for the Deputy President side of the political divide, whether it's Tanga or you call it the Hustler Nation? What does it mean for the DP and these political persuasion, win or lose?
There are two things you have to look at it, Ben. First of all, the Deputy President did not have the seat. The seat was ODM seat. So it was, and in politics, you play like what we call the giraffe mentality. You need a place to put the head. The neck and the other parts of the body will get in eventually. So if the Deputy President wins this seat through the allies whom we have seen campaign there, it will have given him a good boost and a morale boost going to 2022. And it will also mean that the coastal region is no longer strongly ODM, but it can be a toss-up region going to the next election. And also, it has a lot of significance coming around 18 months to the next general election, which it means he will have some work to do, and he will have some people. He will have some grassroots supporters who he will be working from. It will not be as though he is going to the place as a new person. The other thing also that this means to him, it means that he can now expand his allies away from the Kilifi County where Kina Aisha Jumwa and the other team comes from, and now have a place in Kwale County, which will mean he will get now the ranks of Mwashetani will now be joined by Kina Faisal if he wins the election, and it will be a good thing moving forward. And also, Ben, our viewers should not forget this, that in the last election, Jubilee took away the gubernatorial seat from ODM in Kwale, which means Kwale is a moderate county now. It's no longer an ODM zone from where we sit if you are to dissect it from a political angle. Because if they lost the gubernatorial seat, which means the people from that part of the world are willing to listen to alternative ideas. And this is a good thing to him. But now, looking at the flip side for Raila Odinga, it will mean a lot of other things. One, it will mean he will have to change strategy. Two, the key messaging in ODM has failed 2-3 times now. It failed in Ugenya when they made that election a William Ruto issue instead of going and addressing the issues of the people. Secondly, it has come a time whereby politicians must realize that Kenyans are not stupid. We are running out of stupid people. And this message of going and selling bravado, bravery, and historical conquest will no longer hold. What we need to do now is for these political parties to package issues and sell them to the people.
All right, thank you, Wakili. for that. Final question to you, Jarvis. What's in it for the two second-term governors, Joho and Mvurya, in this, very quickly?
Every politician is always very ambitious. And Joho here now wants to see how he can control the coastal politics, politics of the region. And for him, having served two successful terms, he wants to ensure that he builds his muscles and even gets now to determine who becomes a member of parliament, who becomes a senator, who becomes governor in the next election and moving forward. He wants to grow into a political grandmaster. When you look at Mvurya, he has always wanted to demonstrate that he is not a poodle, that he is not Joho's poodle, because Joho has been considered as the coastal supremo and the deputy party leader of ODM, and that he has seemed to be controlling the politics and the other politicians of the coastal region. So Mvurya wants to demonstrate firmly that he is his own man standing on his own 2 feet, and that's why we are seeing him consistently putting his feet on the ground. Now that means also that Mvurya wants to get into whatever duel that these kind of engagements will invite. So this means that moving into the 2022 general election, Mvurya will want to see how to work with, support, and sponsor maybe even various candidates, just to show his political supremacy and shrewdness. Joho will want to do the same thing. And then it also means that various presidential candidates will want to pick sides. Whether it's, for example, Deputy President William Ruto gunning the presidency, he'll want to see if he can work with Governor Mvurya to see how to gain access into fully and firmly and control the coastal region bloc. The other candidate, for example, if it's Raila Odinga, he'll want to see how to work closely with Joho and see how to clinch and hold the coastal region and the coastal bloc in his favor. So looking at it that way, it means that they are now ready for a political battle that's not just a question of their political survival in terms of contesting gubernatorial seats, because now they have served, they are serving their final second term, which is provided for in the Constitution. So this means then that they are proper suitors for the presidential candidates for 2022.
When President Uhuru Kenyatta and ODM leader Raila Odinga are watching happenings in Msambweni tonight, what are they thinking?
I think they are wondering whether they are steering the boat of the nation in the right direction, which of course they feel they are. But remember that William Ruto has put his boots on the ground by sponsoring or working with a certain candidate. Much as himself, he has not gone there to fully and to go and just thump and campaign for that candidate. But we can see his spirit. Raila Odinga has had his spirit and presence in the coastal region. For President Uhuru Kenyatta, he decided that he's not going to field a candidate through Jubilee in the coastal region because of the spirit of brotherhood with Raila Odinga.
Right.
So which means that if at all the ODM candidate loses, then it will mean that the candidate of President Kenyatta and Raila Odinga has lost. And it will not give them a heroic or a calm feeling. They will feel bad about that kind of loss. The other thing is that they may want now to put their ears on the ground and listen to the people keenly. Because if the candidate of ODM loses, it may be considered to be a revolt outcome of that election, that the people want to be listened to and not to be spoken at by those that hold power. So moving towards the proposed referendum, it will then call on President Kenyatta and former Prime Minister Raila Odinga to listen keenly to the voices of the people. Because it's not about what they want as leaders of this nation, but what the people want, because they are the leaders of the people. So it behooves President Kenyatta now to listen, to watch carefully the outcome of all these by-elections, because there is some voices, some silent voices, some whispers that are coming from the outcome of these elections. And if at all they want to be the drum majors of change and progress and democracy in this country, then they must be drum majors of the people's interest and the people's music.
Thank you, Javas. Javas Bigambo, political analyst, and Kipchumba Karori, lawyer and political strategist, dissecting for us the happenings and results trickling in ever so slowly in Msambweni in that parliamentary by-election. Many thanks, gentlemen, for joining me.